There's a whole world of movies to be discovered. You just have to overcome that 1-inch barrier known as subtitles. I'm Josh Barry.
Yes, you are.
You're Nick Griffiths. And you're Kieran Labaro? No?
Yeah, that's how. Yes.
Nick
Makes me sound
Labaro,
fancy. Nick Labaro.
Kieran Griffiths. How are we, boys?
Well, mate, how are you?
Good.
Yeah. Ready to travel the globe once more.
Yeah, Hungary today. We're going to Hungary.
Ooh. I could eat. Yeah, I was like, we'll wait for who's going to make the joke. First time club as well for Hungary.
Yeah, always nice to
yeah.
go to a new country.
I'm not sure I've seen another Hungarian film actually, but
I would hazard a guess that this would be my
Yeah,
first.
it's actually, no, good point. I haven't thought
yeah,
about
and I
it.
think as we said in that last one, like it's not a country really known. I wouldn't say known for cinema.
No, yeah, not for many exports out of, aside from this. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can't say.
I couldn't name another
I couldn't name one
Hungarian
less
film.
Yeah, good point, actually, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'll name this film
I love that, that's good.
On Body and Soul.
There we go.
2017 Hungarian film, Oscar nominated for Best Foreign Film. That year it won the top prize at the Berlin Film Festival, the Golden Bear.
Wow.
And it also got the top prize at Sydney Film Festival.
Hey,
Really,
well
the
done.
two juggernauts of
The
film
jug-
festivals.
Yes, they are indeed.
Like, but Berlin actually is.
Yeah,
Sydney
Sydney
Film
as
Festival.
well. The Thanks for Coming award, right?
that's right.
I do love the names for international acclaim awards, like the Golden Bear, or the the Palme d'Or. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I think this is a random side note.
Yeah.
When Tropic Thunder do the coveted, like it was some Southeast Asian country crying monkey award, and I was like, when we know we're going too far, when we're trying to find new names for all these awards. But the Golden Bear, well done to Body and Soul.
So quite a big
Pity it wasn't the Golden Deer,
prize there. True.
so to say, but
True.
that's terrible. That was terrible.
Oh, it's a pretty cool award, though.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to
It
tell
is,
people
yes.
that I'd want a Golden Bear.
Yeah, that's true actually, and then an Oscar nomination on top of that as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Directed by Ildiko Enyed,
Well done.
I believe. It's
I mean,
pronounced.
that's a better job
was
than I
far-
probably would have done with that
Far
pronunciation.
more confidence than Kieran and I usually go into these
If
names.
you say it with enough confidence, we'll
we'll believe you.
it.
Yeah, that's it.
And this film, I haven't seen any other of her films, but this was like 20 years after her previous film.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
this was 2017. Wow. So not since the 90s. She...
Or close. I think it
Closer.
was 1999, so about
Wow.
18 years after.
Todd Field ain't got shit.
No. The synopsis of the film is it's set in the backdrop is a slaughterhouse, abattoir, which has its own feelings and
Yeah,
vibe.
there's an odd aesthetic to it as
Yeah.
well. There's something very, what's the word I'm thinking of, sterile
Yeah.
about it. That's
Yeah,
kind of an
true.
interesting backdrop to what is, as you'll explain, a love story.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
guess, right?
Very romantic setting.
Yeah,
Abattoir.
yeah,
that's
that's fallen
right.
in love in the slaughterhouse before.
Juxtaposed. Yeah, that's right. Where a girl starts working there, sort of starts talking to one of the guys who runs the place. They both have their quirks and like interesting characteristics, but then they somehow find out that they're having the same dream where they are both deer. One's a stag, one's a doe.
Yeah.
And
The
they-
classic stag
they-
doe
they-
dream.
Yeah, we've all had it. We've been there.
So they decide to pursue love in real life, I guess.
Yeah, I guess because I think there's no other way to explain this than a love story, to be honest. But it has its very, I guess you could argue, European quirks to it. This is not your Hollywood romance.
No.
There's far more, especially character work going on under the surface of the love story. But at the end of the day, there was a net part of me that was kind of swooned by the tale of it all. It's quite a sweet story, despite its mature themes, I guess you could say. And
because it's crazy how sweet the love story is, but then the whole time you are just in this abattoir.
and they
With
don't shy away from it,
confronting-
do they?
No, confronting images like if you're vegetarian or vegan or sort of
have a penchant for not watching animals get
Yeah,
killed.
I mean,
You'll-
that's
you'll
it. If you
struggle
just
with
have a
some-
conscience, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I love a steak more than most people, and I was sitting through some of those slaughterhouse
Yeah.
scenes,
They go
sort of
kind of
squirming in my seat.
Yeah.
They kind of go full apocalypse now on them. Some of those,
Yeah,
some of
yeah.
those cows.
And it's, as far as I'm aware, it's real footage.
Yeah,
Because
I
they
actually
filmed it
sat,
in a
to be,
real-
right?
I sat
Yeah.
through the credits, and right at the end it says animals were, I think it says something like animals were harmed,
Yeah.
but not for the sake of this movie.
Sure,
So
okay.
it's basically they filmed what was actually
what was
happening.
happening.
In an abattoir.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So what you see is like basically a real abattoir.
Yeah, it's very confronting, and I guess without saying too much about what happens, the violence kind of does stem outside of the abattoir as well at some point. So this is a very considering it's a sweet love story, it's very confronting as well. And I think it's R-rated here as well,
Yeah,
by the
right,
way.
okay.
So yes, and you can definitely see why in some moments. So it's just such an interesting juxtaposition of all these feelings and watching these two people who are very in their own ways, I guess you could say, to like dumb it down a bit, socially awkward in their own ways, kind of find solace in each other. These two lonely people find solace in each other, but then, they happen to just be an environment that fosters bloody violence.
Yeah.
I
I did see two things sort of mentioned from the director that I found interesting. She describes the film as a shy love story.
Yep, I can see that.
And with the abattoir, she's not vegetarian. She doesn't eat meat a lot. And she wanted just to show people that this is how it happens and this is how your food gets to your plate.
Sort of like a brutal reality, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, I've whilst watching it, I'm like, I eat meat. I should see, and if I can't handle it, should I eat meat?
If you have sort of a moralistic, moronic, sorry, is what I said. Moralistic. If you sort of have a moralistic reaction to it, then I think it does provoke it.
And I could see how it could turn people
Oh
off.
God, yeah, that's
Like,
absolutely.
There is some brutal. There's a couple of brutal.
It's interesting though that if that she actually.
Oh my God!
Oh, it's happened again.
I'm getting off this.
Oh, 2 for 2. It's interesting that she actually outwardly sort of said that about the film too, and so not in a critical way, but if I wonder what would possess her to want to do a shy love story that also has this like sort of sidelined thing.
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
really-
think of a correlation
No.
between the forced subjection of viewers watching how your meat's made.
No.
As opposed to the shy love story element.
Yeah.
It's not it doesn't.
I agree.
Bring the
I mean,
film
I
down for me,
remember this is my second watch, and I remember the first time just thinking that those contrasting, either side
Those elements of it,
the elements, and then was the thing that really hit me. Like,
Sure.
just even in that environment, this little shy love story can blossom, sort of thing, which is different.
Yeah.
It was just really unique and different for me.
I think unique's a great
Yeah.
word.
It's almost like two concepts for films combined into one, right?
Yeah.
Like you could do this film that's not like an overly preachy environmental and ecological film about slaughterhouses and our consumption of meat and things like that and the treatment of animals.
Yeah.
And then you've also got this story of sort of these two unconventional characters falling in love in this unique way.
Yeah.
But there is that overlap in that we're seeing sort of the worst of what we do to animals in terms of their treatment in abattoirs, but also this romance blossoming in nature.
Yeah,
That's very
You know,
interesting.
so
actually,
it's sort
that's
of
a
like
good
the
point.
both sides of that coin. So I can
Yeah,
definitely see
that's
how
actually- yeah.
That's a good.
the two stories interconnect.
There we go.
Yeah.
Like, so I was thinking, I was like, could you set this film not in an abattoir and you still get the same story? And I think you could to an
Yeah.
extent, but I think it's very intentional, right? Like,
I like that
definitely
because
feels
you've
to play
got
there.
you've kind of from what you've just said, it's like wild versus farmed almost. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
I like
freedom
that.
versus captivity.
Especially
Yeah.
with some of that imagery we see, because we do see the dream imagery of.
Yeah.
But at initially, from I think it's just her perspective. Initially, we see it. Or
No, I think
it's
it's
his.
his.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's the
his
same,
perspective
yeah.
initially first, and then once the discovery of that both having the dreams, we sort of see how these or their attempts to have these dreams coincide. So it's interesting that a lot of that imagery is deer in these open plains, or in the forest anyway, and just having that freedom. It's quite interesting then to see, and especially the slaughterhouse scenes, like the actual slaughtering of animals.
It's visceral.
It's claustrophobic. There's like you don't. There's a shot that stands out in particular where they basically euthanize a cow, and you see the room. It has no movement or anything. It's just, and the camera is just on the head of. Man,
like you said, it's very sterile. It's very clinical. It's very matter of fact.
Yeah.
Like you can definitely tell what sort of message the director's going for, right? But it's never preachy. It's never in your face of going, meat is murder type stuff. It's not like you're watching a Greenpeace documentary. Or PETA documentary. It's like it's still subtle enough that it feels like it's part of the broader narrative.
Yes.
And I think the really interesting part with the characters and what I was talking about with sort of captivity and freedom is that both of the characters have their own quirks, for lack of a better term, in terms of our male protagonist, Andre, who is the CFO of the abattoir, and he's an older man, and he has a paralysed arm. The film doesn't really go into it at all.
No.
He's just sort of, he's clearly lived a tough life. He's been at the abattoir for a long time, and one of his arms is completely paralysed. And then Maria, the young female meat inspector, who's just meat inspector.
That's good. Yeah. Quality controller. Yeah.
That's probably a better term for it. She's heavily implied to be autistic.
Yes.
Which is really interesting as well, because it's rare to see autistic women in media.
Yes, I mean we've done it twice in a row somehow, but
two very different portrayals.
Two very different portrayals. Shout out to our Mandibles episode. But it's interesting to see her portrayal of it as well, because I think it's very much one that it highlights the social aspects of someone with autism as well, and the struggles she has feeling isolated because of her autism. And I think that was a very interesting part of the film, is that we're not seeing her at all be confrontation. I think there's some common misconceptions with how autism is portrayed, in that the person with autism is the confrontational person. So, they're the ones who are standoffish, but there's a scene where these women would go like, do you want to come have tea with us? But she's working, she knows what she's in her zone, and she doesn't say anything, and it's not a confrontational thing, but they automatically go, oh, she's, for lack of a better word, she's a bit of a bitch, basically, you know what I mean? So it's interesting to see that more reserved, like someone who actually struggles with the isolation of that, and then when she finds out about the dreams, the spark that sort of comes with her, and that's part of the sweetness is watching her sort of come to life in this comfortability, beating her social anxieties and awkwardnesses because someone understands how she feels about something. It's really sweet. Like I really loved it.
And their dreams, in a sense, are the place where they're both not held back by anything.
Yes.
They're not held back by their physical or mental disabilities.
I didn't really think about the arm. Like it was such a throwaway thing for me, but that's such an interesting point about the dreams, about how it is such an escape from that. It's God, this movie has layers.
So it raises a lot of interesting questions though, because sort of as the film goes on and the two characters discover that they share this dream, and it's the same dream, and they're sort of interacting in this dream. And they sort of start trying to pursue that romance in real life, but find that, because of a lot of different factors, it's quite difficult and it's not the same.
Yeah.
It does raise some moral questions around, I guess, the ethics of that relationship, because he's much older, he's in a position of authority in the workplace, and she's also has a mental handicap. And not to say that people with mental disabilities aren't deserving or capable of a relationship.
Sure.
But it does start to get into that real grey area of, is he manipulating?
Yeah.
Because it definitely feels like he's the one pursuing her more than she him, especially in sort of the first 2/3 of the film. He sort of keeps going, oh, let's, come and have lunch with me, just sit down with me, and then, just come to my apartment and just like hang out with me. Like, we don't have to do anything. And it's not that she can't consent, but it starts to get into that weird area of, is she capable of understanding the full social cues of the situation?
It's very interesting, and I think that's where there is a part of the film where she's sort of where that confidence, that social confidence, does sort of like the light bulb goes off in her brain in that sense, and she begins to go, oh, I want to, start not experimenting in the whatever on things the sense of the word, like sexually or whatever, or alcohol, drugs, whatever, but more so just with experience, and she wants to feel experiences and understand what these emotions are like for her, and that there's an element of it as well that he doesn't enjoy because it's not with him, and it's quite interesting. I think the word like a toxic relationship is thrown around a lot these days, but you have to admit there elements of that. There's that moralistic questioning again, not moronic, moralistic questioning of the whole relationship in general. But I think I'll put it to you guys, like I was so much more gravitated to her discoveries throughout the film and her character arc more so than his. Maybe I was attracted to the joy of it. I don't know about how you guys felt about that, but I was so much more engaged in her character arc and her aspect of the relationship than his, but I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
I mean, I think because there's that big change, because like we say at the start, she's, very shy, not talking to anyone, like very matter of fact, very short answers. And
she's obviously very intelligent.
They
talk about her being like, she went to university, she's got this job, she's very good at what she does.
Yeah.
But the emotional intelligence isn't there. There's almost this sort of like childlike innocence to her, which I think is why her sort of journey of self-discovery is so engaging.
Sure, it's almost like a coming of age story, right?
But then that also makes it feel more uncomfortable that you've got this man in his 50s sort of pursuing this person with the emotional capacity of a child. That's where I started to feel a bit
icky about it.
Yeah, for lack of a better term.
Until now, I didn't. I think I would like he to me just seems like this lonely guy. Like
I think
so
loneliness
lonely.
is a big theme of the film too. Isolation and loneliness is a big it's sort of what maybe that's part of the moral themes Kieran was bringing up is like what are we as people willing to morally throw away for connection? If you've been that lonely for that long, is he kind of like, I'm actually subconsciously not even thinking about the fact that firstly, she has a mental handicap, she is significantly younger than me, but I have a connection, so those two things don't matter anymore because I'm finally not feeling lonely for the first time. It's such a, it's very deeply layered with its themes and whatnot. But and then you have this very, no, absurd's the wrong word. It's not even eccentric, but it's just this unique way of sort of showing the connection in their relationship because they find out about the dreams through a therapist who has to come into after someone was stealing. I'm trying to remember. Someone was stealing.
It was basically bull aphrodisiac.
Yes. Yeah. That is very strong and works very quickly for a bull.
Yeah.
Yes. So imagine what it does to a human.
So someone at the abattoir has gone into the medicine cabinet and stolen a whole bunch of
bull aphrodisiac.
Bull aphrodisiac.
Wow.
And so the police can't work out who it is. So they bring in a psychologist.
That's right.
To interview all of the staff and ask them questions like, when did you first have sex and how often do you masturbate?
What did we think about this this scene in general?
When
the psychologist
the first time you meet the psychologist?
Oh, well, but the whole stint,
because
the first time they meet her
is interesting. Well, she's reaching around to get something out of a filing cabinet, and the camera is on him staring at her breasts.
Yes.
And then she catches him.
Yeah.
And there's an awkward. I mean, I guess that does set up the following questions and then why he's so...
he's extremely defensive. Like she catches him looking, at her cleavage, and she's sort of like, don't worry, it happens all the time kind of thing. Like, she's an obviously quite attractive woman. She's wearing like this low-cut blouse thing. And he gets really weird about it. He's not like, sorry. He keeps being like, I was just looking, like, Gets real funny about it. And then she obviously starts asking these really personal questions.
When did you first masturbate? And he's like, hang on, why are you asking me?
I mean, there was an element of me going like, why is she asking that? Actually,
you're right.
Hold on for a second.
That would be quite uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was like, what is this internal investigation and how do I become a part of it? No.
And then on the flip side, you've got her interviewing Maria, and asking her, when did you first menstruate? And she can remember it down to the minute of the
basically it was the second, right? Yeah.
Which, I mean, I don't like the portrayal of autism, whereas it's this sort of like
Rain Man.
Rain Man,
Yeah,
Sherlock
yeah.
Holmes superpower where you can
Yeah.
recall every bit of information you've ever seen,
Yeah.
heard, or read.
I think something, like, obviously I can't talk with my experience as a man, but like, I'm assuming menstruation is probably something you would remember your first period, I guess. So I think that's a pretty significant moment.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
Yeah, true. No, that's fair. And that's very
But then
significant
she-
to all of us. Yeah.
But yeah, then it later comes up that she can remember.
That's right. That is
conversations and
true. Yeah, she
sentences
has
in
that.
order.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know whether they were going for a realistic portrayal.
Yeah.
But that's most women, right? Like, my girlfriend does that. She can.
Do you remember what you said to me on February 4th,
my
2017?
I get it
I
all
do.
the time. And I was like, did we know?
And Nick's like, no, I was drunk.
I was like, what happened? But I'd hate for my girlfriend to be the psychologist in the situation there and ask me all those questions. I'm like, geez, Louise.
When did you first masturbate? I have never masturbated in my life, and I
Disgusting.
resent the accusation.
Oh, God.
But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily going for a hyper-realistic portrayal of someone on the spectrum. It's certainly, as we said, a lot more accurate, healthy,
Less offensive, I guess you could say, than mandibles.
mandibles. But I still don't think it's sort of on the level of, Mother.
Sure.
With the Bong
yeah.
Joon-ho film. I think that was definitely going for a more grounded, realistic, and authentic portrayal.
I wonder if you have to also, and it brings up an interesting point when you were talking about how people with mental disabilities are not incapable of love and feeling what love is. I wonder if liberty has to be taken with a story like this that is so deeply rooted in the fact that it is loneliness, finding love, that you kind of have to play it down a little bit as well and be like, no, we need aspects of the character of Maria to be able to be fully open to the connection aspect, because her connection, especially when outside of her sort of romance, I guess, she listens to music a lot, and she finds that music is now so this provocative thing for her, and there's something else she discovers.
Well, that's a really interesting scene, right? Is she's talking to one of the co-workers, an older woman who's sort of telling her how to, seduce a man, because she can tell that Maria's interested in someone.
Yes.
And she's giving her all this advice, and they start talking about music, and Maria's not engaged with music ever. Mm-hmm. So the next
often
day,
sits in silence.
Yeah.
Which is
goes home,
yeah.
sits in complete silence, and then goes to bed. Like it's so, like before it kind of gets, I guess, more revealed about her having this disability. It genuinely feels like she is an alien.
Yes, yeah.
Trying to act like a human.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's bizarre, especially when she's in private. Mm-hmm. But she decides to go and get some music to try and feel more romantic and sensual. So she goes to a music shop, picks up like a stack of 30 CDs, takes them to the counter, and goes, "I want to listen to all of these." And then she stands at the counter from the store opening to the store closing, just listening, standing there with headphones on, listening to the CDs back to back to back.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it?
And it's hilarious because, like, obviously she's trying to find music that feels, loving and romantic, and the first thing that she puts on is like heavy black death metal.
Yeah, that's right. And I think in the end, the lady working there just says,
Gives her a CD and says, "It's my favorite."
This is what
and then she only listens to like this one
the
song.
one song on repeat.
Repeat. It is.
Which then comes back later in the film in a very dark way.
Yeah, but it's and like she's trying to learn more about sex and what it is and how it works.
Yes.
And so her idea of sex education is to go home and watch like severely hardcore
the most hardcore pornography, in which, again, if you're not going to shy away from the slaughterhouse, you may as well show us a split second of some fucked up porn.
in the background.
And she's just watching it like while eating dinner and taking notes.
That's my favourite shot of the film, is her just being like unfazed. Like, you have reactions to that sort of pornography. You're either ooh, or you're like ooh. You're not down the middle unless you're
like Maria. She may as well have been watching, the 6 p.m. news. It was just, they're munching on a snack while watching someone get ass blasted. It's
literally,
So that's what I mean. It is almost like this alien come to Earth trying to work out how to be a person. But I mean, as like that's how some people on the spectrum are.
Yes,
absolutely.
They're trying to figure out how to be people.
Yeah, and how to talk
Not
to
there's anything
people, how
wrong
to
with them, but they're just
converse
trying to
with
work
them.
out social cues and understanding why people say certain things and why people do certain things.
Yeah.
And she goes home and she's using salt and pepper shakers to recreate, stand into people and recreating conversations so that she can work out where she went wrong or why someone said something that they said. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful looking film.
Oh,
as well,
man,
despite the sterile aesthetic
Yeah.
of the slaughterhouse itself, it
The
is
cinematography
beautifully
is
shot.
stunning.
Yeah, I don't have many notes for the film, but the cinematography is one thing I did note there.
Outstanding. And then, like we said, when we go into the dreams and we're seeing them as they portrayed as deer, like it is just some stunning shots. And then there is a shot later in the film that I thought, in that darker sort of part of the ending, I just thought, despite it being such a confronting experience, I was like, there was elements of it that I was like, there's not sensationalizing what happens, but finding a beauty in it as well. And then when it stops and you kind of go, wow, there's just this, it's just when something hits the water and you kind of go, wow, like that looks incredible. But it just juxtaposes how dark the film does get towards the end.
There's definitely like this sort of like ethereal, dreamlike quality to a lot of it. Even the stuff, as you said, in the abattoir that's quite grotesque in its visceralness. There's this,
almost daydream-like sort of thing, right? You're hovering
in the way it's lit
liminal
and-
spaces, sort of. You're
like
hovering
there's a lot of
around it all,
static shots. The cameras that move too often will have like these really interesting compositions and framing at weird angles. You'll
The
have
lighting,
like
it's
characters will get sort of cut off at the neck or halfway along their face, or you'll have a shot of a room, but it will just be of the the corner of the roof. Like it's all these really interesting, very deliberate shots that give it
very
like you said,
evocative, I think, as well.
this like daydream-esque quality.
Yeah, it's quite incredible. It just looks beautiful. Was it? I'm not to put you on the spot. Is there any cinematography awards or anything?
Oh yeah, I don't know.
No, that's right.
I did look to see if he'd done anything that I knew, but
There was not.
No, there wasn't anything.
It was nominated in the American Society of Cinematographers.
Okay.
That's
that's
it. Wow.
The shots in the forest of the deer
Yes,
do not look CGI at all.
they don't.
No, if that's
But
CGI, it's far better than it.
Believable.
I would think it would be.
I mean, the bit where the stag is running, that then looks
A little bit computer generated, but no, like it definitely.
But otherwise,
if it is, that's incredible.
I can't imagine it is.
But that's again,
how do they
I
get
sit there and
some
go,
of those
how do they get
shots?
those shots?
Yeah.
Like, unless you want
And
a
it
Dave
all
Attenborough guy
seems-
sitting for 900
It all seems
days.
really deliberate, like
I know.
the way that
There's
The way,
no
the, way the
acting
stag and the doe.
Yeah.
There's
like you said,
no-
they almost feel like they're acting.
Yeah.
Right? So it's,
There's no nature documentary B-roll vibe to it, right?
No.
God, it looks good.
Yeah.
It's a stunning looking film.
yeah, it almost feels weirdly out of place in a film like this because it is so good.
Yeah.
That it does make you question.
Yeah.
Is that a real deal?
That's right.
You
Yeah.
know, is that CGI?
Yeah.
The performances, obviously we've touched on them a little bit, but is there a standout in the film for either of you?
I think I'm definitely more, as we kind of talked about, more engaged with Maria as a character than Andre.
So Alexandra Bobelli, Bobelli maybe?
I saw some trivia that they're an actual couple.
Ah,
What?
there we go.
Maria and Andre.
Problematic, as Kieran pointed out.
Yeah.
Kieran's like, I don't know if I have something to do with
That's
it.
a good point, actually.
Did
but,
they give each other antlers instead of a ring, perhaps, when they got engaged? I'm the same. I think just watching a character like that grow and have such an authentic portrayal that doesn't ever feel like a stereotype or an archetype or anything like that. It was quite, and she has a presence about her, and I think Kieran got the nail on the head with that alien-like quality.
Yeah.
It's something I just couldn't look away from as well. And that's not to discredit him as well. Like, he's great in the film, but I think she's my standout anyway.
Yeah, she does have. Yeah, when she's on screen, she kind of owns it.
Yeah, for sure.
And as a shy character, that's quite impressive.
It's very impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah. To have so much screen presence
Yes.
without
With-
commanding it,
That's right.
with a real showy performance.
Yeah, that's right.
He died last year.
Oh, he did. Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Giza Morksani. That's terrible pronunciation, I'm sure, but yeah, the actor who plays Andre Yeah, died in
Yeah.
2023.
Oh, God.
He was 70.
70 years
Oh,
old.
right.
So he was a lot older than I sort of thought he was in the
Yeah,
film.
he actually looks quite good for his age.
Yeah, I thought he was
Yeah.
probably
He's done well.
late 50s.
Yeah, yeah.
So he would have been 64 in the film, and then Alexandra is 37 now.
So she would have
Wow.
been
She would have
early
been-
30s.
Early 30s when they filmed
Yeah.
it.
Did I get that right? Were they a couple?
I don't think
No.
so.
Oh.
No, because he's got a wife listed on Wikipedia.
She's from Czechoslovakia.
IMDb trivia, there's something.
Oh, isn't it?
Is
Interesting.
Czechoslovakia
But
still a
maybe I've
country?
got the wrong.
Sorry, you said-
Is Czechoslovakia still a country? I think, is it not the Czech Republic and Slovakia now?
Yes, it is. But she was born when it was
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
Just make sure we're not upsetting
Sorry.
our big
offend
Czech
anyone.
audience.
Oh, anyway.
Yes.
But that's look, their Wikipedia
Yeah.
pages are very small. It basically sounds like this is the only film either
Yeah,
of them did.
okay.
She is dating the new butcher who comes in and gets accused of stealing the.
Okay.
Makes more sense.
Yes.
Makes more sense.
Huh.
Big chat of the film.
Yes.
Literally comes in with some big chat energy. eh?
The new cock in the hen house.
This-
in the slaughterhouse.
that was a great line.
Yeah.
That was a great line. Obviously, we can't compare it much to other films from Hungary because, like I said, we can't really
Compare it
put
to
it on.
any other
But,
film.
I mean, like, if anything, I'd probably go like there seemed to be like a French avant-garde sort of feel to it to me anyway. Like, I would probably put it more towards some French films I've seen.
Scandinavian
Yeah.
films.
Very
Yeah,
Scandinavian.
yeah, it feels-
yeah.
Very Finnish. Very.
Yes. Yeah. I
Like
agree.
into Overwatch,
Norwegian.
obviously, some Norwegian films on the show, and
Yeah.
there's definitely similarity
Yes,
there.
yeah.
But I mean, Europe, obviously, with each country has its own very strong sense of identity, but it is a bit of a melting pot as well in terms of, especially in those sort of like more Eastern European countries that kind of cross borders a bit more.
Yeah.
So it's natural that the influences are going to sort of transition across countries as well.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yeah.
like very much big Scandinavian, French,
Yes.
German
for sure.
cinema vibes.
Yep.
That would be- Definitely would like to see more movies out of it as well. Probably more movies from this director as well. I
Yeah.
think this one
If you,
definitely.
if you can wait another 20 years.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I mean,
we'll
I
see what happens.
saw. I think it was David Stratton.
Yes.
Said that he
Loved her
loved
previous
the
films.
previous one.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
No, I'd definitely be.
Yeah.
I'd definitely be interested in
Yeah.
seeing more of her work.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Star ratings.
Josh, you've seen this one twice now.
I have seen it twice.
So, what was your rating and your thoughts first time round?
My rating was 4 stars first time round, and my rating hasn't changed.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Good.
I definitely. When I saw it like 6 odd years ago, I didn't know much about
Yeah.
autism spectrum or.
Sure. Yeah.
So I at that time didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
I just thought she was this sort of,
And
unique.
fair enough as well, because it's not
It's not mentioned.
overtly
or-
said.
There's
No.
never-
There's
yeah.
only there's a scene where she goes to see her psychologist, who is a child psychologist.
That's right. Yeah.
And he sort of makes it very clear to her. He's like, I don't know how to help you
Yeah.
anymore because you're a
You're
grown
an
woman and
adult.
I'm a
Yeah.
child psychologist.
Yes, yeah.
But obviously, it's the only person that she feels comfortable going to
Yes.
because she's obviously seen him since she was a child.
Yeah.
Outside of that, like I said, I would if at the end of the film the mothership beamed her up, I would
Yeah.
have been like, makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can totally see why you would be like, I picked up nothing of the whole autistic thing.
So yeah, this time it was a different experience, kind of straight away clocking that.
Clocking that. Yeah. Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's very
I just
interesting, actually,
yeah,
yeah.
definite like strong 4-star
Yeah,
film
yeah.
for me. Just really unique
Yeah.
and different for a love story, which I kind of love.
I'm the same. I'm a 4-star for this, and I think I'm a fan of films that have a unique styling but aren't afraid to sort of be bold and audacious within its own sort of world.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be so, I guess for lack of a better word, like flamboyantly theatrical to do that. Like this is a bold film that is so grounded in its own reality, and I kind of liked that. But I loved the journey that Maria went on, and
Yeah.
I think watching it again after Kieran brought up some pretty interesting points about sort of the morality
Yeah.
of it all
Yeah.
would I think only further enhance the
Yeah.
experience. To be honest, I don't think it's going to be a movie that gives me the ick because of that, where some movies can do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it'd just be a very far more interesting look from another perspective of it as well. Looks beautiful. Oh my god, it's a stunning.
It is beautiful.
And I was quite moved by the ending of the film.
Yeah.
I think there's a phone call that happens in a very sort of
Yes.
climactic point in the film, and
Yes.
I literally went, Oh, thank God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're right.
And at that point, I was kind of like, oh, I've been hooked in this for the last 2 hours. So it's a very strong 4-star for me. It may only go up on a rewatch, 2.5.
I'm going to be a bit controversial, and I'm going to say it's a 3-star.
Oh.
Very interesting.
And I think, and not,
think
to,
it's probably
not to say that it's bad, but I think it's probably one of my least favourite films we've watched on the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
We watched Mandibles.
Yeah, I know, right? Do you think it's because of the older guy, younger woman boss?
That sort of made me feel a bit uncomfortable. But overall, I think, and I hate being so reductive, but I just found it really boring.
Oh.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah.
I think the first,
didn't really
the last
talk about
sort
the
last sort of half an hour, it kind of picked up steam and I got more engaged with it. But I think by that point, it had mostly lost me.
It does take a while to get there. I won't lie. It's not. It's a slow movie for sure.
I mean, it clocks in at what, maybe just over 100 minutes.
I think it's just under 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's about 150 or something.
Yeah, and I just felt like it took a bit too long to get where it needed to be.
Sure.
And I think had it maybe been 90 minutes, or had you maybe introduced some of the conflict a little bit earlier, I'd probably been a bit more on board with it. But I think by the time
You don't get
it
that
really
with these
picked
sorts
up
of
steam,
movies, though, do
no,
you?
no, I think by the time it picked up steam, I'd already checked out a bit.
Sure.
I went, this is beautiful
That's
to
very
look at.
interesting.
Yeah. It's a gorgeous looking film, I won't deny that, and I think the performances are good. They're very human performances. I don't feel like I'm watching acting, even though I said that Maria comes across as very alien. It's very naturalistic. The people look like people, the people act like people, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But I was just, and maybe I wasn't in the right mindset for a film like this at the time. Sure. Yeah. But I was just going, I was checking my watch. I was going, how long's left?
Yeah.
That's very
which is a shame because I have really enjoyed talking about it. I think it is a really deeply layered film, and I think it is a very thematic film. And what we will do is I do want to talk about the ending.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we will, before we get to that, we will put in a spoiler tag so you can make sure that you don't have that spoiled for you.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a lot to unpack. But I think I was just, for lack of a better description, I was just bored.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. It's funny that you felt that way and saw the movie from a different perspective to Josh and I as well.
Yeah.
Like that's very interesting to see what we kind of got caught up in regards to the story and how it kind of did affect the rating at the end of the day.
And I think this is
That
probably one of the
sounds
first
interesting.
times that we've kind of
Been quite
different.
vastly different. Yeah.
So,
But good. It's only taken 30-something episodes.
Yeah.
Finally, a disagreement.
But it's not to say that it's a bad film, and it's not to say I wouldn't recommend it.
3 is a positive. People need to remember 3 is a positive rating.
Exactly. It's just not something I'll probably actively seek out to watch again. But at the same time, I want to see, I want to have that experience that you guys had with it.
Yeah.
So I will probably rewatch it for that.
Yeah.
And for me, and this probably sounds dumb, but I would
You can't sound dumb with me, so don't worry.
I would rather an interesting 3 than a boring 4.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I can think of a lot of films that I've given 4 stars that I could not even
That I'll never
tell
watch
you
again.
about. Yeah.
I'll never watch it again.
Couldn't tell you what it was about. Couldn't tell you what I liked about it.
Yeah. I'm the same.
Yeah.
But I will, still be able to tell you all of my thoughts on Body and Soul in 12 months' time, even though I gave it a 3.
Yeah.
I would much rather a film take a
that.
big swing and miss than play it safe and, get to first base.
Yeah.
Get to first base. Not straight to the arse blasting. Right? Yeah.
No.
Very, very much so.
So we're going to talk about the ending.
Yes.
If you don't want to have the ending spoiled for you, if you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, look in the description. We'll have a time that you can skip to where we'll be finished talking about spoilers. So either join us for that or we'll see you afterwards. So the ending.
Yes.
And I mean the ending in sort of the whole sort of last 20 minutes, but also the last maybe 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. The film ends with Maria attempting to commit suicide because she's been rejected by Andre.
Yeah, he's slept with another woman,
Yeah, he sort of doesn't feel that spark anymore, that connection. She feels rejected. She feels that, she's lost this only person in her life that she's found this connection with, and he said no to her. So she decides to draw a bath for herself, bring the CD player out, play this one song that she's discovered that she likes, and she slits her wrist in the bathtub. and she's lying there bleeding out, and then the phone rings,
Yeah.
and she answers
Which
it.
is, that's what we were talking about. It's like,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
my
yeah.
moment of like,
and I felt that as well,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? You know, so the phone rings. It's Andre. He says, "I love you."
Yeah.
You know,
I wanna give this thing a go, yeah.
He starts by saying, "Oh, what are you up to?
What are you up to?"
And she's like, "Oh, nothing." She's sat there naked.
She's got down to the
Bleeding out.
bath at this point, and the wrist is still bleeding over
Yeah,
the floor.
like bleeding profusely out of her wrist. And she's like, "Oh, nothing. What are you up to?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, nothing. I just wanted to hear from you. Good night, I guess." And he's like, "Oh, by the way, I love you."
Yeah.
And she's like, "I love you too." And then they sort of, you know, she goes to the hospital. She gets bandaged up after bandaging herself up with sellotape.
I saw,
which is an interesting way to triage a split wrist.
She's probably read it somewhere. That's the thing. That does not strike me as Maria doing something just off the cuff. I'm like, she knew. She was ready.
And then they get together. She goes to his house, and then they have sex for the first time.
Yes.
And they fall asleep in each other's arms. They wake up the next day, they're having breakfast together, and they're sort of laughing and having a really nice time together. She seems the most sort of sociable and normal, for lack of a better term, that she has all film.
I will
seems
say,
very happy.
I really, not to sound like a perv, I really liked that sex scene.
Yeah.
I think that's a very
Tasteful.
tasteful, but I felt the intimacy of that.
Yeah.
I think it was actually a very well done sex scene.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And then Andre says to Maria, "What did you dream about last night?" And she went, "I don't remember. I don't think I dreamed, or I don't think I dreamt." And then that sort of, my takeaway from that was that because they'd finally, there was no tension left.
Yes.
They'd had sex. The connection had sort of reached its
I would
zenith.
even say to the point that the I love you was probably enough almost, like the reciprocation of, because she's shown her love for him up to that point as well, where he hasn't fully given it back despite the opposite chase, right?
He gave it, she didn't want it. She gave it, he didn't want it.
But now the
But
stars
then they
align,
come
right?
together. Yeah, the stars align, and the dreams stop. So it sort of is that I guess a metaphor for kind of domestic bliss,
Oh,
right?
interesting.
Like once you have the thing that you want, it's no longer that fun, exciting thing that you're chasing. It's just the thing that you have, right? So once you've got the girl isn't that exciting anymore because you have her. You're not trying to work for it anymore. You know, neither of them have the deer dream because they don't need to.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was my kind of takeaway from it, and I think that is the most interesting bit of the film.
No,
and
I
would
agree.
have, I almost would have liked that to have happened earlier, and then seen the fallout.
Interesting.
You know,
okay.
of you know, was the connection genuine, or was it just this?
I
We
would
both want
almost
something we
say,
can't have.
Based on that director's comments, she said how she's saying this is a lonely love story, right?
Yeah.
I would say that maybe the movie she wanted to make is a happy ending, right? And that's not to say what you're saying is going to lead, but I think it's very interesting to think about. There is I think one of the greatest questions about film ever is like, what happens next? And if you're thinking about that, like I think what's come beforehand has done a great job, right? If you're like, I want to know what happens to these guys next.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
I had that taste in my mouth too of like, I wonder what this looks like afterwards. I've been so entranced by their journey together that it's funny, once the dreams stop, I kind of go, oh.
Yeah. I think because I probably didn't think too much into it, but I just thought,
Josh
Like
just
the-
loves love. He's just like, I'm so
like,
fucking
yes.
happy they're together.
I'm over here just being
And
cynical
they
about everything.
tastefully
No, but
fucked.
I-
It was beautiful.
the dream scenarios with the deer, they're trying to find each other. Like you see the stag
Interesting,
and looks over, and the doe is like walking into the forest, but kind of looking back. So there's this whole
The search.
like seduction and searching and I guess longing for it and waiting for it to happen. So once it happens in real life, then it's like, okay, well, what would I dream about? Like what?
Interesting. What are
the deals?
I guess there's a similarity there, though, isn't it? Hey, it's like it's
well,
just
there
the
is.
what's next.
Yeah.
Hey, but
What's left to chase?
I think it's
chase.
again one of those things like what
Yeah.
do you bring to the film at that time?
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe
Probably
if you weren't
you're-
in the mood to watch it, where you may be thinking like, these guys are fucked. You know what I mean? Like in that sense, whereas, when we were just watching it with daydreamy eyes, and I was just like, love, the deers are in love. But it's interesting. Like, I think it's just that, I think it's expert filmmaking to be able to have two widely different interpretations of like,
I mean, as
literally 15 seconds of the film. That is
As you said
4.5,
earlier on, it's got a lot of layers.
It's a lot
like,
of
and the more we talk about it, the more you start.
It's an onion.
Yeah.
It's an onion.
And as I said,
it's a beautiful ending.
I still feel comfortable with the rating I gave it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm still happy to talk about it, and that's again the mark of a good film and a well-made film is that it promotes discussion.
Yes.
I don't think we could sit here and talk about, a Hollywood or Netflix release, that
doing
was like
the same thing,
that was a 3.5, 4 star. And I went, oh yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd be able to unpack it for an hour and dissect it and
we can
discuss
try.
it.
Anyone but you, Glenn Powell.
Why was I thinking of
City
Hitman when
Sweeney.
we said that?
Yeah,
Both on the Glenn Powell train.
There we go. We know. We're all obsessed.
Because he's
with
in
him
everything
moment.
at the moment.
We
He
can't
really
escape him.
Our
Was
next
he
film
an
is
extra
Twisters.
in this? Was he?
He was one of the deers, actually. And he's still a sexy motherfucker.
So, welcome back. If you skipped the spoiler chat.
You missed some really good chat. Go watch the film.
Go watch the film
Layers.
and then come back
Lots
and
of
listen
layers.
Lots of layers.
to it. But that was on Body and Soul.
Yeah.
First trip
Thanks
to
for
Hungary.
taking us to Hungary.
Yeah.
It's always like we said at the start of the show, it is really nice to go to some different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think expose ourselves and expose people to
Tastefully.
tastefully expose ourselves
To meat inspectors.
on the internet to meet inspectors.
We're tastefully exposing ourselves. We are the meat inspectors now at the end of the day.
That's the new name of the podcast.
The meat inspectors.
But to go to countries that people don't necessarily think of when they think of foreign films.
Sure.
It's nice to branch out. We've done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
We went to Iran, which was a bit of an interesting one. We've been to Hungary now, and I think even going to Norway is somewhere that people probably wouldn't necessarily think of.
Just think of,
Yeah.
But where are we going next time?
Yes. So
back to Kieran.
Back to me.
Kieran's pick.
We're going to a fairly popular country for international films, but one that we shockingly haven't been to before on the show. So we're going to Italy.
Very good.
Yes. That is crazy. We haven't been
been
there
to
yet.
Italy,
30
yeah.
episodes.
30 episodes we haven't been to.
That's crazy.
Astonishing, but don't
Here we
worry.
come.
Here we come. And we're going for a 2000 erotic drama film
Here we go.
because
Horny.
we know how much you loved Et Mama Tambien.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. What was it? Did we do another horny film? Was there one that we did?
Mommy was
Mummy was kind of,
fairly
yeah,
horny.
but that was incest sexy.
There was
we
another
don't
one
fuck
that
with
we did try that.
Was it Dogtooth? That was bad horny.
Dogtooth was bad horny.
Because
That's
we talked
exactly
about the
right.
difference between good
Yeah,
horny
good
and bad
horny and
horny.
bad horny. Funny it's called Dogtooth. It's like bad horny. Bad horny. But no, we're going back to good horny.
Let's call it horny.
Mid horny, mid range horny.
Written and directed by Giuseppe Tornatore, who most people would know for Cinema Paradiso, his 2000 film Milena,
Monica Bellucci.
starring the Belushi.
The Belushi.
John
Great
Belushi.
Matrix. Yeah. Now I would watch
be a
Milena with
different
John
movie.
Belushi. Absolutely.
But yes, the 2000 film Milena, that will be on next month's episode, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. But Nick, do you want to see us out?
Yes, I do. That 1 Inch Barrier on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're listening on your preferred podcasting platform, make sure you follow us on there. We also add that 1 Inch Barrier on Instagram. And if you want to follow our personal ones, they'll be in the show notes below. We will see you in Italy. Buongiorno.